Well, hello everybody, this is Captain Max and welcome to episode 23 on Fun with Guns. This episode, boring looking guns. Now don't misunderstand me, a lot of these are fine firearms. We're not talking about ugly guns and we're not talking about bad guns. Now some guns just look exciting. Sometimes because of their interesting shapes, sometimes because of the people that carry them, and sometimes because of their outright intimidation factor. The simple fact is, some guns just look awesome. Others are horrendously ugly, but despite that, they're still actually pretty good guns. But what about boring guns? Well, in the category of rifles, some of my top picks for most boring looking guns are actually very good guns, such as the Ruger 1022. In its naked form, this is about the most boring gun you can find, at least aesthetically. However, we all know that with some relatively inexpensive add-ons, it can be made to look exciting, but the base gun is pretty boring. When I grew up, virtually every kid had a Glenfield 22. Cheap, reliable, and accurate, but yawn, not much to look at. Putting a scope on them kind of gave them a little bit of style, but other than that, not a lot. Same for the Nylon 66. Great little gun. Very simple, easy to maintain, but not very exciting to look at. When it comes to revolvers, there are a few revolvers that are less exciting looking than some of the old Colt double actions. The Barney Fife guns and the Smith & Wesson Model 10s weren't far behind. At least the stub-nose 38s had a little bit of that bad boy gangster look to them. But straight up 4-inch 38s, I mean, they're great guns, but they're not much to look at. You could throw a pair of stag grips on them or something, give them a little bit of style, juice them up a little bit. But in the end, long-barreled, straight-up, K-frame style, I-frame style revolvers, yawn. When we get into semi-automatics, we get into a whole nother level of boring. Some of the worst of the lot were probably the Astras, which weren't bad guns, they were just really, really boring to look at. Some of them had slightly more interesting lines, but it looks like a gun a 2-year-old would draw. The Walther PP always had that same kind of look to it, but funny enough, when they trimmed it down to the shorter PPK, it actually became a very pretty gun. A lot of it's about symmetry. I have a Ruger 1022, great 22, probably the best one I own, but then again, Yawnsville, baby, not much to look at. Military firearms. There are some, such as the old M1 Garand, that just look good and tough and military from every angle. And then there are those that don't. This little jewel was supposed to be a low-cost replacement for the Thompson. The Army didn't even test it in 9mm, although they did test it in .45. But I'm pretty sure the Army took one look at it and just said, no. This looks like something one of the gorillas in Planets of the Apes would carry. I mean, seriously, if I had to march through the streets of Paris with that thing, I think I'd hide it behind my back. You know what's kind of sad is, while the Danish were making guns like this that looked like they came out of the future, we were still testing guns like this. And although this Reising M-50 did see combat and reasonably good service, it has to be the most boring submachine gun to look at I've ever seen. Even cut down, the thing just still lacks any pizzazz. I mean, at least this Madsen light machine gun, as ugly as it is intriguing to look at. I mean, I could see a Klingon or an Imperial Stormtrooper carrying one of these, but oh well. We got a couple of honorable mentions here. Of course, we have the Ruger Security 6, which I'm not sure if it qualifies as boring or ugly. And of course, the Glock, probably one of the greatest guns ever made. Some people think it's one of the ugliest guns ever made. I think it's one of the most boring looking guns ever made. Having said that, it's a great gun, but to look at it, it's just pure function over form. I mean, not a second thought given to style. I'm sorry guys, but I understand when your life depends on it or you're trying to make that shot, the only thing you're worried about is functionality. But guns spend most of their time being talked about and looked at and admired, so come on, let's give some points for style. I mean, come on, looks matter. But you know what? Now that I think about the boring looking guns, heck, we love them too. Well, this is Captain Max of Fun with Guns, and I hope you got a little tickle out of today's episode. Once again, please be safe.